Testing. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Don't need this up here. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Venice, or UCOV. I'm Steve Simon, this morning's worship associate. The Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Venice, we strive to be a beacon of liberal religion for Florida's South Coast, Florida's Sun Coast, and a refuge for all who seek a welcoming community, no matter your color, creed, ability, or class, no matter who you love, your gender expression, your political affiliation, or religious belief. Here we celebrate our differences as we learn from one another. If you'd like to know more about this congregation and its many opportunities for learning, growth, and connection, you can peruse our calendar and announcements on our Facebook page or on our webpage at uucov.org. If you're joining us online, please consider navigating over to our website, clicking the donate button, and giving as generously as you can. We hope you'll find something in this service that speaks to you and maybe lifts you up or challenges you in ways that lead to spiritual reflection and personal growth. We're glad that you've chosen to join us, and we welcome you here today. If you're visiting us for the first time, we would love to meet you. Please introduce yourself with your name and where you're from. Or, if you're returning from somewhere else, please stand up and say hi. So, anyone new?
Susan, do you want to introduce yourself? No. Susan Keffel's here. She's Eddie's wife. We're welcome.
All right, anybody returning from up north?
I was here last Sunday as well, but I'm returning from the UU congregation of Peoria, Illinois.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, my name is Glenn Zip.
Hi, Glenn. Welcome.
Welcome, Glenn. All right, then it's just the announcements.
Who else do we have making announcements today?
Okay. Well, Pat's coming up here. Well, she's going to be talking about that. On Wednesday, January 4th at 2 p.m. in Astor Linder, you can come learn about Great Decisions, which will be a Forum Affairs discussion forum.
That sounds interesting, but we also have another fun, interesting thing on January 20th, the Arts and More auction. We're trying to raise money to help pay for some of the damage that was done here for the hurricane and for other things. And we really need your participation. There are forms out on the table in the lanai if you'd like to donate an artwork that you've done, or maybe a trip somewhere, or something having to do with art. It's called Arts and More. And it's going to be 4:30 in the afternoon here in the sanctuary. You could submit your, what is that, Pam? Well, it says 4:30 in the bulletin. We better get that straight then. Willits, wasn't it 4:30? Okay. All right. Well, we'll let you know about that one. But you can bring these forms to church. You can fill them out online, or you can email them as an attachment to Pam Palmer, which would be on Breeze. She's on Breeze. Blank forms can be found here as well as everywhere, and we're really looking for your donations and your participation. Watch for an email with more information. It's going to be sent out as an email blast. And after the service, you can also speak to Lisa or Jim Willett. There they are. If you have any questions or need additional information, we really need you to come and participate. Thank you all.
Thank you, Pat. And because there's a little confusion as to whether it's 4:30 or 5, someone I know would say about something like this, that if you show up at 5 instead of 4:30, a lot of the good stuff may already be gone.
Just a brief announcement. The Pledge Campaign Pizza Party is scheduled for Saturday, January 14th at 5 p.m. There's no charge, and we will provide non-alcoholic beverages, which are free to BYOB. There is entertainment. I'm very happy about that. The UCOV Not Ready for Subprime Time players will be providing a skit on how to about finding our new minister. And I understand that there are some people that have applied and that they will be interviewed during there. There will be music. There is a sign-up sheet on the lanai for you to sign up for the pizza party, and please be sure to put down your favorite pizza topping. Thank you.
A reminder that next Saturday will be UCOV's Christmas Eve service. So it will be on Saturday. There will be no Sunday morning service on Christmas Day.
4 o'clock on Christmas Eve,
4 o'clock on Christmas Eve.
for sure.
Okay. All right. Today is the third Sunday of the month, which means we will be holding a visitor meet and greet today in Waters Hall right after the service. This is an opportunity for visitors to meet our minister, as well as some of the members of the board and members of the welcome team. Light refreshments are served, including coffee. To get to Waters Hall, anybody here who's a visitor for that? It's over there. It's in the corner. All right. Now, Serena, you have an announcement?
Good morning. January 2nd, all of you who are voting members will be receiving two things in your email. A ballot to nominate someone you trust to be on the search committee. And that will happen on January 2nd. And you will also get, for those of us who can't remember sometimes, a copy of our current membership list, those individuals who are voting members. And that will come along with the email, and you should have it back by January 8th. There will be a ballot box on the lanai for you to put it into the box, and hopefully within a week or so, we will have a search committee in place. This is your responsibility as a congregation. It's very important, so please take it very seriously. And just to mention the entertainment, I am still soliciting individuals who want to be in the How to Select a Minister skit. We've done this in the past, about 12 years ago, and it was a lot of fun. So if you're interested in being a funny minister applying for a job at UCOV with the subprime players, please let me know, because the positions are filling up quickly. And we are also, Marcia has helped with the musical metaphors after. Will be part of the meditation. So we'll be singing some fun songs that evening, January 14th at the pizza party.
So when are the sheets coming out again for the search committee? What day is that?
January 2nd.
January 2nd? And what day do we have to have them back?
January 8th.
All right.
Oh, I did it.
Thanks, Ernie.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Lisa. That was wonderful. We kindle this light in memory of the dedication and courage of the Maccabees and for all those who struggle for freedom. They willingly fought for the freedom to worship as their hearts and minds dictated. As we light this chalice, we rededicate ourselves to the quest for religious freedom for all in our land and abroad.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It's the first morning it was almost chilly enough to put real shoes on. I'm Reverend Amy Petrie Shaw. My pronouns are they, them, or she, her. And we're gathered here today, as always, on the land that is the traditional territory of the indigenous Calusa people. We're going to be talking about the miracle of Hanukkah today. And these opening words are adapted from a traditional Hanukkah prayer. Now, we are not lighting a menorah, and I know some of you may be surprised at that because some churches do it. Because I was actively Jewish for a very long time, I recognize very strongly that it is not normal to light the Hanukkah candles at this hour. And I don't like using it as a prop. So that's why it's not here. It's not out of any lack of respect for those of you who've seen that often. But these are our opening words. Blessed are you, Spirit of life and love, amazing web of creation, which makes us holy through responsibility to one another and calls us to light the Hanukkah lights at the appropriate time. Blessed are you, Spirit of life and love, amazing web of creation, for having brought miracles to our ancestors in those days at that time. Blessed are you, Spirit of life and love, amazing web of creation, which has kept us and sustained us, and let us reach this joyous occasion. Blessed are you, Spirit of divine humanity, which calls us to see the sacred in every human face. Blessed are you, Spirit of life and love, which calls us to be the miracle in these times. So come and let us worship here together. Our gathering song this morning is number 188 in the gray hymnal, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. We're going to do it 3 times through, so please rise in body or spirit. Y'all sounded beautiful this morning. This is a time in our service for our children's chapel where we talk with the children about what it is the adults are going to be learning later in the service after they've left. And we do this for the children who are here with us and for any children that are following along at home on YouTube with the live stream. So today we're going to be talking about the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah and why it's important to us. And the story is awesomely cool. It's about this group of people. That's not where the story starts, though. It's about a country. Well, no, that's not where the story starts either. The story starts with a king who was a jerk. And he decided that everybody in his land was going to worship the way he said. And unfortunately, not everybody wanted to do that. Can you imagine getting told, oh no, you can't come to this church on Sunday morning. You got to go to that one over there, and you have to wear a fancy dress and a big hat. And you have to bring up a pizza every Sunday as a donation. And you can't have any. You wouldn't be real happy about that, but that's what this king was telling the people. And a group of brave folks said, we're not going to do that. There was some arguing and there was some fighting, but they won. And they came back to their church and found out the king and his men had messed it all up. They called their church a temple because they were not Unitarian. Their temple was wrecked. They had thrown food all over. They smashed the statues. They wrecked everything. And the worst part was that they had taken all the oil that they used to light the lamps, and they wrecked that too. So it took these folks 8 days to make more oil. And they thought, boy, we're going to have a terrible time. There's not enough oil to keep our lamps going for 8 whole days. And somebody said, well, light them anyway. Just light them anyway. So they did. And the story goes that the oil burned for 8 whole days, even though there wasn't enough. Now, is it true? We don't know that. But by the time the lamps burned out, they had more oil ready, and they had the temple cleaned up, and they were able to go back to being free people, worshiping the way they wanted to, not the way some king told them to. So we like that story a lot. So that's what we're going to be talking today, and we're going to be talking about a lot more that goes with it, about the ideas that go behind it, and why they did what they did, and how they did what they did, but that's the basic story. Hanukkah is about some brave people who dared to hope that everything would be okay, and they were willing to fight for it. So that is the story. I ask you all to join me in singing the children out with the Reeb Children's Benediction. Every week I remind everyone that giving is a sacred practice. We don't pass the basket because we want to make a bunch of money. That's not the point. Whether you put in a penny or a quarter, a dime, a dollar, it's a reminder to be generous this week. That's why we do this. But our offering words are always offered with levity because giving shouldn't hurt. So here's this week's terrible moment. A UU minister and a taxi driver both died and went to heaven, and St. Pete was at the pearly gates waiting for them. The taxi driver was told, "Come on in," and he followed St. Peter to a mansion. Everything you could imagine, from a bowling alley to a big screen TV, an Olympic-sized pool. "Wow, this is great," the taxi driver said. St. Pete led the UU minister to a rugged old shack with a bunk bed and a black and white TV set. "I think you got a little mixed up," the minister said. "Shouldn't I be the one getting the mansion? I mean, I was a minister. I went to church every day, preached every Sunday." St. Pete scratched his head with the tip of a wing and said, "Well, it's kind of embarrassing. That's very true. But you see, during all your sermons, people slept. When the taxi driver drove, everyone prayed." So that I might continue to lull you all to sleep on a weekly basis, the morning offering will now be given and joyfully received. Thank you all so much for this and for everything you do for this community. Because church isn't a building, it is the community. And it's as a community of human hands and human hearts that we come together. We share our laughter and our tears. We bear witness and minister to one another as we struggle with life's sorrows and celebrate life's joys. We're entering into a time of sharing our joys and concerns, and you can raise a hand and someone will bring you a microphone. We ask only that you speak briefly and please share only the stories that are yours to tell. I think Pat's got the mic there.
Jewett. I hope I can do this without getting choked up, but Merry Christmas, and I'm Mrs. Claus, bringing you cheers. I'm actually heading out to see my daughter in Santa Fe, New Mexico. She said it was 17 degrees there this morning, and I said, okay, I'm getting warmed up just thinking about it, but I haven't seen my grandson in 3 years, and she's going through a divorce, so it's going to be a very pleasant time. We're going to enjoy each other's company, but it's something I've been wanting to do for a while.
I'm Henry Bright. My brother John died this past week. He was the one I was closest to growing up, and he was 2 years older than me. So it's a great loss that I feel. So he was a good guy and a loving person.
I'm Rosemary Hagan, and I want to explain why I haven't been at church. I have hoof and mouth disease. Well, I went to get my toenails clipped, and she clipped my big toe so I could hardly walk. And then I was flossing my teeth, and 3 of them fell off. So I'm sorry I don't have a joy to but I am alive. I suppose that's joyful. Anyway, I'm nursing a new plate, which I don't like, and a sore toe, which I don't like. And in honor of all that, I live on the 3rd floor now, and the elevator went on the blink for an entire day. So Merry Christmas, everybody.
Pat, you going over there?
I don't know, I can't top that. Tom Voigt, I have a deep sorrow. Venice lost the state championship yesterday, 21-14. My buddy Dave Lyon and I were there to witness it.
My name is Chris, and I usually don't ask for anything for myself, but if you could send your prayers to me and my family. We live in Northport. We were victims of Hurricane Ian and the flooding. We've lost everything we own, our house, our cars, all our belongings. And right now we're staying in an Airbnb, but my husband and my daughter just graduated from nursing school, so even through all these issues, she was able to do that. We're spending Christmas in an Airbnb, and we've learned how to be very appreciative of family and friends and the things that we do have, kind of looking at things in a different way. But any thoughts and prayers for us would be greatly appreciated. Thanks.
May the love of this community hold all who need love and concern, and may the light of our community shine on the broken places of the world. May the work of our hands and our hearts support, aid, and comfort all those who hunger or thirst for food or water or justice or freedom. May we never look away when we're needed. May those who are grieving be comforted. May those who are tired find rest. May the broken places be healed, and may those who are filled with joy and laughter be abundant.
Where is holiness? Translated from the traditional Hasidic. There is holiness when we strive to be true to the best we know. There is holiness when we are kind to someone who cannot possibly be of service to us. There is holiness when we promote family harmony. There is holiness when we forget what divides us and remember what unites us. There is holiness when we are willing to be laughed at for what we believe in. There is holiness when we love truly, honestly, and unselfishly. There is holiness when we remember the lonely and bring cheer into a dark corner. There is holiness when we share our bread, our ideas, and our enthusiasms. There is holiness when we gather to pray in the spirit of life, which gave us the power to pray. Holy, holy, holy is the divine. May all the earth be filled with the glory of the name.
In The Alphabet of Grace, Frederick Buckner writes, "A miracle is when the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. A miracle is when 1 + 1 equals 1,000. With those words in mind, please join me for 1 minute of silent meditation or thought or prayer.
The Everlasting Hanukkah Buffet by Jason Cook. My Aunt Lee knew how to put on a Hanukkah buffet. I mean, she really knew how to put on a Hanukkah buffet. There was no doubt. She knew her way around any casserole that had ever tickled humankind's palate. And there was sweet kugel and beef brisket and latkes and arugula and blintzes and so on and so on. And this buffet would appear at her home during Hanukkah. Dishes lined up neatly across the island of an immaculate kitchen that never betrayed a sign that there was any effort that went into the process. There she was, always stylishly dressed in something that shimmered, standing next to my Uncle Al in his corduroy bow tie. That glorious buffet spread out in front of us while the candles flickered on the menorah and the lights twinkled on the Christmas tree. While Jewish, Aunt Lee and Uncle Al embraced the festival sparkle of Christmas decorations too, as a way of being inclusive to the whole family. I took that buffet for granted when I was a little kid. I knew it would just be there, the food as familiar as the back of my hand, the taste of each dish forever associated with memories of Hanukkah or Christmas. And no matter how many family members and friends showed up, there was always enough. That buffet never ran out. There was enough food for seconds and thirds, and by the time we were stuffed, the buffet disappeared as easily as it had come, fading into the background. I look back now, and I think about this bit of magic. Magic that Aunt Lee conjured each Hanukkah, and was very in keeping with the Hanukkah story of the lamp and its replenishing oil. That when we think we don't quite have enough, we still do. But of course, like the Hanukkah story, if I shift the lens, I look at Aunt Lee's miraculous everlasting buffet through, I realize, of course, it wasn't magical at all. Aunt Lee made the magic. That neat line of casseroles and silver chafing dishes was the product of much labor that came before. Labor we didn't see or recognize in that moment. And there was always enough because Aunt Lee made sure there was enough. A second or third dish of kugel or more latkes was waiting in the wings for whatever hungry holiday traveler might show up. I think for me that is the lesson of that Hanukkah buffet. Abundance is ours. There is enough for everyone, but only if we are intentional in our sharing of that abundance. Aunt Lee died last year, and Uncle Al is busy playing cards in an assisted living facility these days, but the buffet, it belonged to all of us. And it's the responsibility of all of us to enjoy, to appreciate, to share in all its miraculous, everlasting abundance. Now, please rise in body or spirit. Our centering hymn today is number 295. Sing out praises for the journey.
poet Jan Richardson wrote this lovely poem called "Blessed Are You Who Bear the Light." Blessed are you who bear the light in unbearable times, who testify to its endurance amid the unendurable, who bear witness to its persistence when everything seems in shadow and grief. Blessed are you in whom the light lives, in whom the brightness blazes, your heart a chapel, an altar where in the deepest nights can be seen the fire that shines forth in you, in unaccountable faith, in stubborn hope, in love that illuminates every broken thing it finds. Now, Hanukkah is about that healing, illuminating, miraculous light. The underlying story is very, very simple. As some of you know it better than others, I gave the kids a really simple version. Tracy Rich is a historian, and they write, story of Hanukkah starts in the reign of Alexander the Great. And most of us have at least heard of Alexander the Great. He conquered Syria and Egypt and Palestine, but allowed the lands under his control to continue observing their own religions and retain a certain degree of autonomy. Rich says, under this relatively benevolent role, many Jews assimilated much of the Hellenistic culture, adopting the language and the customs and the dress of the Greeks. And this is where the problem started, because Judaism started to fracture a little bit. All of a sudden, you had these Hellenistic Jews. They were Greek in their dress and in the way they spoke. They were Greek in their habits. Culture is a biggie. So you started to see a divide happening. And more than a century later, Antiochus IV, who was a successor of Alexander, he took control of that region. And Antiochus is what is commonly known as a jerk. He was hideous. He started to oppress the Jews. He made sure to find Hellenistic Jews who were priests, so who had Greek manners and Greek customs and who spoke Greek, and he put them in charge of the temples, knowing that they would do things the way he wanted. He started massacring Jews. He started prohibiting the practice of the Jewish religion. And then he desecrated the temples. He called for the sacrifice of pigs in the temple, knowing that this was absolutely forbidden. These were filthy animals in that tradition. Two groups came up to oppose Antiochus. You had a nationalistic group led by Mattathias, the Hasmonean, and his son, Judah Maccabee, and a religious traditionalist group. They were the forerunners of the Pharisees. So you've got the social justice folk of the time, and you've got the religious folk of the time, and they joined forces. And they revolted against the Hellenistic Jews and the oppression by the Greek government and against Antiochus. And it was like the mouse that roared. The revolution succeeded. They won. My guess is at the time they thought they were going to their deaths when they revolted. But they couldn't do it. They couldn't bear to do what they were being asked to do. And they won. And according to the tradition as recorded in the Talmud, they went to clean out the temple, which had been desecrated so badly, and to rededicate it. And at the time of the rededication, there was very little oil left that had not been defiled by the Greeks. You can imagine how bad this temple was. They needed oil for the menorah, the candelabrum, if you will. Today, it looks like a candelabrum, which was supposed to burn throughout the night, every night. Now, at the time, these would have been lamps. These would have been stone vessels or metal vessels with a wick. and you filled them with oil. They needed them to light the temple. It was part of the temple culture. But there was only enough oil for one day, that yet miraculously it burned for 8 days. The time it took to go get a bunch of olives, press them, drain them, bless them, and bring them in to be used, the olive oil. An 8-day festival was declared to commemorate the miracle. So officially, Hanukkah commemorates the miracle of the oil, not the military victory. Jews do not glorify war. So the victory is all about that oil burning. We've heard that story, many of us have. And we've heard basic descriptions of what Hanukkah is. We've seen some of the prayers. I want to talk about a deeper level of meaning to the story, and it's drawn from a more esoteric version of Judaism, more mystical Jewish thought. Some of you may have heard of Kabbalah, which means to receive. Kabbalah is a set of mystic Jewish teachings. Some people like them, some don't. They look at the relationship between the mysterious, the infinite, and the mortal, finite world. They aren't about what you believe. They don't care what you believe. It's a set of ways of looking how the finite and the infinite are connected. It's almost like mathematics. Hasidic Judaism says that God is everything and everything is God. You could boil that down to it's all one worldwide, planet-wide, galaxy-wide web. It's all one thing. And they say what we think of as the real world is simply a version of the divine temporarily taking on another form. I've always liked that idea. For some mystics, the goal is to have the spiritual and physical elements of your life as reconciled as possible, so that physical life remains a reflection of priceless, infinite reality. A mathematics professor I talked to, when we were talking about this at one point, he said, "You're talking about a Mandelbrot set." And at the time I said, "A what?" And he said, "You know, one of those images you see where it gets bigger with each time around." He said, "Fractal mathematics." And I went, "Okay, I have no idea what you're talking about." And so he said, "Get out there and go look up Mandelbrot sets." So I did. And you can do it. You can look up Mandelbrot set. You can look up fractal math. You'll see some very pretty pictures. They're designs where it's the same design each time around and it gets bigger and bigger. And I said, yeah, that's exactly it. We're talking about as above, so below. We're talking about it's all a reflection. So in mystic thought, the temple, the sacred place, represents the point where the ultimate, the eternal, the divine, and the finite are perfectly in balance, perfect mirrors of each other. A study of perfect opposites, each meaningless in and of themselves. Now, it's something odd to hear the divine referred to as absolutely meaningless, but I love this idea. If you've ever seen the yin and yang pictures, where you have the black and the white and each one has a circle within them of the opposite color, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about if somebody shines a bright light in your eyes, you get blinded. We're talking about if you look at a sheen of oily black water, it almost seems to glow. The Baal Shem Tov, the rabbi who founded the Hasidic movement, said that the temple was a place of reflective symmetry. And Rabbi Harev Ginsburg explains that it's the result of two inverse elements possessing a hidden reference to one another. Back to that yin and yang idea. So it is with darkness and light, Light possesses the potential to blind with radiance, and dark holds the potential for illumination. So the temple was desecrated. This represents the places in our lives where we're broken off from that web that we're part of. The place where we offend against ourselves by devaluing ourselves or other pieces of creation. This is the place where we forget the value of other humans and deny meaning to other finite creation. When the temple was cleaned and the lamps relit, a miracle occurred. They burned for 8 days. Now, did that happen? We have no idea. But for mystics, what matters is that faith and trust were shown. The Jews chose to light the lamps despite the fact there wasn't enough oil. No one ever suggested they lit them and then said, boy, I bet God's going to just miraculously fix this. They knew there wasn't enough. They absolutely knew there was not enough. And they lit them anyway, standing in that temple that they had just spent the day scrubbing and cleaning and crying over. Can you imagine when they got to that oil and there was this much left, which made it all for nothing? Because without the lamps being lit, it wasn't right. And instead of going away, they lit them anyway. They reached out for the light in the darkness. The oil burning wasn't really the miracle. A mystic would say their faith was the miracle, their trust that they were the miracle. As pieces of finite existence, they reached out and said, let there be light. They said, I'll create light where there's darkness, and I'll trust that more light's going to come. When we're faced with the places in our lives where there's no way, when we can't imagine having the strength to live our values and do what we believe is right, when we are broken, when we're confronted with a world of violence and despair, that's the minute to reach out and light our lamp anyway. The moment to reach for the light in the darkness, to trust that more light can come. Hanukkah says you need to be the light, to see the reflective symmetry, to recognize your own divinity, to see divine power even wrapped in finite form. There is no God without humanity. Take that as you will. Hanukkah calls us to be the miracle. Each night we light a candle for 8 nights, and each night we're called to examine a different aspect of reconciliation between finite humans and that infinite web. Each night we draw closer to reconciliation. We contemplate what it means to be alive. On the first night, the night the Jews took a leap of faith and lit those lamps, we contemplate the divinity of all things. It's all one web. Those people dared to light lamps to say there will be light, and we dare to say we are sacred by the fact we exist. On the second night, they realized the lamps hadn't gone out, even though they should have. We're called to study and to attempt to understand written and spoken wisdom as we understand it. We're reminded that the search for truth and meaning never ends. They stood in the light. They stood in light they had dared to create, and they wondered how it was possible. And we too have to wonder about our lives and the lights we kindle. We're called to seek out personal truth. On the third night, they could no longer deny that something strange was going on, that a miracle was occurring. And we are called to remember our own ancestors, to recognize that our spiritual understanding is tied to our physical body and our place in our culture, our circumstance. We are the end result of generations of life. On the fourth night, they stopped questioning and simply said, we have our temple back. And they worshiped. We're reminded to recognize love as a connection between all things. On the fifth night, we look for the harmony between opposites, body and spirit, dark and light. We cannot be at peace unless our neighbor is at peace. Each of us is contained within the other. The sixth night symbolizes the 6 days of creation. It was on this day that mystics believed that man was created and given the responsibility to maintain the creation, to choose good or evil. This is the day on which we must choose to either be our brother, sister, or other's keeper, or their murderer, darkness or light. On the seventh night, we are called to recognize the patterns of existence. How many times do we make the same mistakes? As one of my friends said, you know, it's understandable if you're surrounded by clowns if you keep going to the circus. How often do we fight the same battles? Why are we stuck going round and round again? What are the answers that we need? By the eighth night, the new oil was ready and the lamps were refilled and the miracle was over, but the light had won through human action. Humans took that 8 days and they cleaned and they pressed and they blessed and they filled those lamps with their own hands. On the eighth night, we're rejuvenated and rededicated like the temple. The miracle is over, and human agency has become the source of results. A miracle of the Spirit, a renewal based not on winning a physical fight, but on trust and daring to be good, daring to be a miracle. Our world can be a lousy place right now, and Hanukkah gives us a lens of hope. It tells us we can make a difference. We can be the miracle. Even when we can't see the whole picture. We can just take the tiny steps. It's okay. There's a marvelous Jewish story that says when they were fleeing Egypt and they reached the Red Sea, it didn't just part. It didn't part until the first man walked up to it, and Moses had told him it'll split. And so he walked in, and he walked in up to his waist, and it didn't split. He walked in up to his chest, and it didn't split. It wasn't until his nose went under that it opened. Now, I wouldn't ask a Unitarian Universalist to trust anyone that much. But I would ask you to trust yourself. You know how much or little you are called to do on a given day. And it's okay if your steps are small. It's okay if the only good thing you did today was be good to yourself. Get a good cup of coffee. You got out of bed. You read a little of a good book. You're important too. Trust yourself, and every night for 8 nights, light a candle. Remember the temple. Remember those people who made a difference. Remember that we're the miracle. Walk into that water when you choose, as far as you choose, and light your lamps and be a miracle. Amen.
I want to apologize before we extinguish the flame. With all the changes and announcements, there was one that I skipped, and I'm glad to give this one a little extra emphasis. On Thursday at 10 a.m. here in the sanctuary, a new year, a new beginning, special program to think about the losses the people have had and a way in which you can start to think about the significance of the new year and new beginnings. Again, Thursday here, 10 a.m. with Ginny Chapelier and Reverend Amy. So, we extinguish this chalice and we carry the light of the miracle into the world. Hymn number 298, Wake Now, My Senses. Please rise in body or spirit, our final hymn, number 298, Wake Now, My Senses, verses 1 to 3.
You are the miracle, you are the change which has been promised, so carry your candle into the world. Peace, ashe, and may it be so. Please join us in the postlude, May Love Surround You.